can feel someone's breathing on my shoulder. The officer sighed. They had been investigating the house for 3 days, and the only thing they could find was this eerie record that sounded like an elaborate prank. A week ago, they got reports that the resident of this house has been unreachable from his work colleagues, family, and close friends. They said he was very distant in the week prior to his disappearance. On the few occasions they were in touch with him, he seemed to be very tense and on edge all the time. The police tried to track his phone number, but they couldn't find anything anywhere. It was like he transferred to another dimension. When they went to look in his house, they couldn't find any trace of him. The first 2 days were uneventful. Everything got yellow taped and they got people to look for anything they could find. One of the cleaners stumbled upon the tape recorder and realized it had a tape recorded. After listening to it, they were very unsettled and confused. There were no holes anywhere to be found, which was already confirmed in the recording. No one but the resident saw the hole. This seemed to be another case of mental breakdown or paranoia. They checked his computer history and found what he was searching for. It was all gibberish and didn't make any sense.
This is getting very strange.
Do you think he'll come?
I don't know, but I sure hope so. He never misses a good case.
Just then, they saw a car parking outside. Someone stepped out of the car. He was dressed in a long black coat and seemed to have a calm demeanor. He seemed to be in his mid-30s, had short beard, his hair light brown, chin length, and slicked to the left. His eyes looked so focused, yet so sleepy. They were dark brown. The officer gave a smile to her colleague.
See? I told you.
They went outside to greet him.
Detective Matthew Bryan, thank you for coming.
Hello, Officer Daniels. Please show me the way. Matthew Bryan, the man of the hour. The man the police always went to whenever they were stuck. Since his early 20s, he has helped them solve over 25 cases that seemed unsolvable. He was a loner for the most part, but he had a lovely wife. Ironically enough, they met during one of his cases where he saved her from a dangerous serial killer. Something about him always seemed off, like he knew or saw things only he could. The officers led him inside the house, and the first thing he noticed was a computer screen. He stared intently for a while.
Do you understand any of this gibberish?
Broken out of his trance, he shook his head. No. He seemed so focused, but he didn't show it.
If it helps, we did find this recording.
The officer handed him the tape. Matthew nodded. Thank you. Let me have a listen. As he listened to the recording, he approached the window next to the missing victim's bed. He slowly pulled the curtains and stared outside while listening. The officers were watching him and felt confused. It was like he was watching something, listening to it as it speaks to him. They noticed his face shifting when the silence hit. The recording mentioned there was some chanting outside of his house, but they couldn't hear it. They watched Matthew's eyes grow wide with anxiety laced with a mix of fear. He closed the curtain quickly and stepped back from the window. He ran his fingers through his hair, parting it to a side, and wiped the sweat off his forehead. He walked to the officers with purpose. What the hell did I just hear? What did your men gather from all this so far? The officer was a little startled by Matthew's behavior.
There are no holes here. You tell me. What do you make out of this?
Matthew stared at the officer for a brief moment, his expression unreadable. He then took a deep breath. I see. Can I have a word with this neighbor? The officer looked at him with a puzzled expression.
You don't believe this crap, Matthew, do you?
I just want to know if he had any insights he can share with us. He replied almost with excitement, unlike his previous calm behavior. The officer knew better than to argue with him. It's not like this is their first case together. Matthew had always been like that. Strange, but he gets results. And they needed just that. 10 minutes later, they were knocking on the neighbor's door. The door opened and they were greeted by a man who looked in his 50s. But his weakened body and his frail figure made him look 70 at least. Matthew gave him a warm smile. "Good day, sir. I hope you're well. We've had some reports about your neighbor next door. He seems to have been missing for a week now. I was hoping you had any information regarding him that could help us know what happened." The man smiled back, but it faded quickly into an expressionless gaze.
"Hello, officer. Please come in."
He invited them inside. The house was full of pictures of a woman and her kid, his family presumably. The table had one chair. The sofas were covered in dust, save for his spot. A skittering could be heard from inside. Matthew assumed it was a pet of sorts. Overall, the house was so depressingly empty and quiet. They sat at the sofas, and the man offered them some water. He then sat with them and spoke.
"I apologize for my uselessness, but there's nothing I can help you with. I stopped caring who's next door 3 neighbors ago. As you can see, I live alone. I lost my wife and kid years ago, and my life stopped after that. No neighbors checked in on me in years. No one cared about who's next door. Why should I care about them?"
His expression was now melancholic, and he seemed to drift off with his gaze into his family's picture. The skittering sound was heard again, this time a little louder than usual. Matthew glanced to where the sound was coming from. "A pet you have there?" The man seemed a little joyous behind his grief, and his face lit up.
"Yes, my cat back there. It's the only thing that's been keeping me company since. Please don't make me call him in. He doesn't like guests."
I'll take your word for it. Sorry to disturb you, sir. Thank you for your time, and I wish you a lovely day. Come on, Matthew. Let's go.
Both of them got out of the house, with the detective being obviously frustrated.
What were you really thinking you were going to find in there? His body? Had this man taken him or killed him, there's no way he would have left the recording laying around like that. What's happened to you? Gone soft?
The officer was a little upset with Matthew. She always knew Matthew tended to drift off during cases, and she didn't like it when he takes her to a dead end with no explanation. The officer's anger grew when she realized her entire team was gone. They seemed to have cleared the crime scene, and everyone was leaving. Both she and Matthew were watching the men leaving with the exact puzzled look on their faces.
"That wasn't very fruitful as you initially wished, was it?"
A man with a deep voice spoke from their left. Matthew looked to see a man in his late 50s standing confidently in a black suit and a cigar in hand. He had short hair that was starting to gray and a mustache.
Excuse me, what the hell is going on here? Why are my men leaving? And who the hell are you?
The officer asked, her frustration audible through her words. The man looked to the officer with disdain and replied with a confident tone mixed with a trace of disgust.
"Name is Benjamin Oswald, and that's all you need to know, kid. Your team is dismissed by the government. We'll be taking the investigation from here. Thank you kindly for your hard work."
The officer shook her head in disbelief and left. This was not the first time she stumbled upon a case that the government told her later to drop it off. Matthew stood there confused for a moment. As soon as he followed the officer to leave, Oswald called to him.
"Not you. You are still of use to us."
Matthew stood there silently watching Officer Daniels as she left. He then turned to Benjamin. "Who are you exactly?" "What do you want from me?" he asked, anticipating an answer he did not want to hear.
If you'd follow me, I will tell you everything on the way. All I can say for now is that it's a pleasure finally meeting you in person.
They went to a fancy car that was parked nearby and were greeted by another man in black who seemed to be the driver. As they drove, Matthew stared out the window in silence, lost in his thoughts about what he had seen and heard this morning. He finally broke the silence. "So, this isn't your ordinary case, is it? Something more sinister is going on. Who are you?"
We suspect this is a case of ritual murder. Something supernatural is at play here. As to who we are, we specialize in such cases. You can say we are the government's division of supernatural investigations, the Supernatural Defense Agency, or SDA. Very few know of us, but we know you very well.
Matthew smiled to himself lightly. "Huh? I am insulted you haven't contacted me earlier."
We did indeed. Maybe you should check your mailbox more often.
Benjamin replied immediately, as if he was waiting for him just to say that. Both men stared at each other in awkward silence for a while, with the same thought on their minds, like a smell lingering in the air. What really happened to that man, and how Matthew can help in finding out? Benjamin broke the silence again.
Normally, I would have said consider this your initial assignment, or test, or task, or whatever you call it to prove that you are fit to join us. But you and I know you are more than fit. We are officially asking you to join us on this case. You will be assigned a partner to observe your methods and facilitate communication between us. I know this isn't how you usually work, but this is our process. If you are not willing to work like that, then this is your chance to walk away now and let us handle it ourselves.
Matthew nodded in silence and then stared out the window again. It wasn't a long ride in particular, but the silence and suspense hanging in the air made it feel like days. By the time they reached their destination, it was afternoon. The sunlight was heavily dimmed by the thick winter clouds, and there was a cool breeze in the air. Matthew stepped out of the car, taking a deep breath of the fresh air. He felt the icy air sting in his lungs, but he didn't mind it. He always loved the chill. It reminded him of the chills that ran through him when he was chasing new leads or getting lost in a dead end. He looked at the massive building that stood tall in front of him. From the outside, it looked like your usual fancy glass building in the rich part of the city. Matter of fact, it looked so fancy that he always thought this was a company building. Once he entered, however, the interior of the building looked like it came out of a sci-fi movie. He could see the walls made out of strange material, shining with colors that made his brain twirl if he stared for too long. There were elevators everywhere that led as high as the sky, or deep down to the center of the earth. He was tranced and felt a little sad inside him as he never had a chance to work in this place. He wished his wife was there to see it with him. This thought brought more sadness and burden to him. Last time he saw her was before arriving at the crime scene. He was sleeping next to her hospital bed as she slept deeply from fatigue and sickness. They were promised to live in peace after that dreadful night years ago. But living so long takes a toll on the body. She lived through a lot of pandemics, and it was all catching up to her now. Her health started deteriorating very rapidly after the second year. She laid before him, too frail and tired. The image of her in that state made him want to leave immediately and return to the hospital. Benjamin broke him out of his trance.
If you are done sightseeing, please follow me.
Matthew shook his head slightly and tried to hide the irritation and worry on his face. He took a deep breath, composed himself, and followed Benjamin. "So, what exactly do you do here?"
Well, basically, we don't exist. Just like our work, when something out of the ordinary happens, they call us to investigate. For example, a ship goes missing in the middle of the ocean with no trace. The last thing that was heard from their side as they plead for help. They say something in the water is coming for them. They send us to bring in that sea devil. A strange vessel flying outside of Earth's atmosphere. At least one of our men will be in a space shuttle that is sent to investigate it. People start going missing, then suddenly appear lifeless and drained of blood with no injuries other than a needle mark. Oh wait, someone had to bring too much attention to it until they drove the killer into hiding. Yes, we know of your infamous case of the vampire.
The detective looked down in confusion and embarrassment. Oh, you know about that?
Yes, as a matter of fact. We were on the vampire's trail for years until you showed up. I'm gonna let you in on a big secret. The vampire hunters, they're a secret unit of our organization, but they don't know it. You see, these folks have been around for centuries. When we discovered them, we offered them to join us, but only their leaders. We would give them a superhuman serum courtesy of our scientists, and they would tell their followers this is some sort of magic elixir given to them by a god or whatever cult bullshit they were feeding them.
But the hunters died 2 years ago. All of them. I was there, I saw what happened to them.
And that's why you are here. We know the being that killed them. We call them Vorthors.
Matthew was taken by surprise, and a worried expression was visible on his face. Them? Are you telling me there's more than one of that fucking stranger? And what does this have to do with me? What do you want from me exactly?
Look, Matthew, I run this place. I know of every single extraordinary beings we encounter, but I do not know the details of each one. I oversee the operations as a whole, but the agents who report to me are the ones who investigate and have much more details. I know Claire believes this case is related to the Vorthors, and even with all her knowledge, she never met one in person, and these creatures are considered to be among the most dangerous beings we've ever classified. On the other hand, you met one. Hell, you even spoke to them, outsmarted them, and survived the whole ordeal. We need your help in this case. Claire is not one to ask for help, yet she asked for yours specifically. She will brief you on everything and will lead the investigation with you. You'll be partners in this.
Matthew's worried expression now turned to one of anger. Listen. No. Just no. I've survived last time because someone else gave their life for me. Matter of fact, he gave up many more lives for me, not just his. I did not outsmart the stranger. I was cowering from him. He's been haunting me for 2 years now, and I want nothing to do with any of this. I just want to be in peace with my wife. She needs me. His voice started to break in sadness with that last sentence. Benjamin gave him a frustrated look.
Speaking of which, how is she? A rare specimen that girl is. She's endured too much. Do you think she and her entire species deserve the fate they got? Is that fair? Don't you think all these souls deserve to be avenged? How many more should die because of these creatures? You have a chance to save lives here, Matthew, and you choose to stand idle?
Matthew sighed in defeat. Sorry, but I can't help you. This is not my line of work. Benjamin's face was visibly disappointed. He put a hand on Matthew's shoulder.
I understand. Thank you regardless. Here's my number in case you change your mind.
He gave Matthew his card and patted him on the shoulder. Matthew left, feeling angry and disappointed in himself. He never backed from a case. But this was different. He knew that creature wanted him to find him again, and he wouldn't give him that. He had other pressing matters on his mind. His phone buzzed. It was a call from the hospital.